Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Ken Course here with Explore Momentum, Your Momentum Now. And I've been waiting for this day for quite a while to introduce my amazing friend, wizard in the publishing space, so much experience in what she does. The lovely and talented Karen Strauss is here with me today. And really, our topic today is you hear so much noise and so much chatter from mentors, coaches, and I'm one of them. I'm guilty of this too, that tell you, you've got to have a book. A book is what's going to solidify your platform. It's going to tie everything together. It's the cornerstone of your brand. Without a book, you're not going to get publicity, all the things you're going to be shut out from. And so what I love about Karen is I've met tons of book experts over the years. Karen's down to earth. She can have a conversation about this stuff. And not only that, she's innovating in the space, because for me, I probably would have thought the same thing as a lot of you, where I would have said, great, I can just go and create it on my own, self-publish, throw it up on Amazon, throw it up on CreateSpace, wherever it is I need to do. And then I've got my book. But there are so many things you need to know before you get there. And so, Karen, I'm going to introduce you and talk a little bit about your experience in the industry first. So what's your background and how'd you get into book publishing?
Sure. Well, first, hi, Ken. Thank you so much. Hi. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here with you today. It's really an honor. So, with that said, I have too long of a background, which would turn into like a 700-page book. But the short version is I've been in publishing for over 30 years, working in traditional publishing at places like Random House and Macmillan and Crown and Avon, primarily in publicity, promotion, marketing, and
Gotcha.
in sales. So
Gotcha.
I really have an all-round background understanding what the stores want, what publicity actually, what shows actually drive traffic to the stores so they buy books, and so I learned a lot in the traditional companies where I worked, and then at some point I got exhausted from having a boss every day. So
We all have that point.
well, most of us as entrepreneurs, certainly, we have a breaking point. And so I went out on my own to work with independent, medium-sized publishing companies who needed an equal level playing field for sales and distribution primarily. So oddly enough, I started working with religious publishers, so
Okay.
Christian publishers primarily. And so I was at the forefront of working with them and basically getting them into the secular market. So the secular market was Barnes & Noble, Borders at the time, Costco, Price Club, even Walmart. And that was really fun, being part of a revolution in a way,
Right.
because, yeah, the secular market didn't know what to do with religious books, and they felt very uncomfortable about how do they separate the good books from the books that were not going to work for their market.
Right.
So I was involved very much with that, and actually still do that to this day, work with traditional publishing companies. I work with them on their archives of what we could republish, repackage, and also actually work with the buyers at Barnes & Noble and at Costco, and see what will work there.
Right.
Right. And so, but my primary work is we started Hybrid Global Publishing about 5 years ago to work with independent authors to give them the same equal level playing field that an author would have at a traditional publishing company. So we
Gotcha.
do provide all the services that a traditional publishing company would have. And I love that. And that's certainly the growing market.
Sure. So a lot of the people that are part of this community are more like me. They're in the marketing and sales space. They're entrepreneurs. Some are direct sellers, and for me, I even put this in the emails that I was sending out when I was talking to people about this event, saying, dragging a book out of some of us, I know, is a challenging thing because of how much we've got and creating programs, and we're day to day, we're in the weeds with the clients every single day. So, in this day and age, this year, do you still think it's important to have a book? Do you agree with what all the mentors say when they say you got to have it and here's why?
I do. I think it's even more important in this day and age to separate yourself from the rest of the crowd.
Sure.
The difference is that in the old days, the only marketing really was about the channel you went after was the big bookstores,
Right.
and libraries, which is still valid to a large extent today. You want your book in libraries, but in terms of
Yeah.
bookstores, there's a lot less players. You also have to have some kind of a platform already.
Right.
You want to have a publicity campaign. There's a lot you need to do if you really want to survive in the brick and mortar stores.
Sure.
So, but having said that, there are a lot of independent authors who are tremendous writers who at one point would have been taken on by the traditional publishing companies, but it's so squeezed now that that less and less authors are really being bought by traditional publishers, so they
Right.
need some kind of help. So the reason I think that it's important to have a book, particularly if you're an entrepreneur and you are building your brand and you're expanding your platform, if you want to be a speaker, you need to have a book to stand out. You need to have something to show people that, yes, I'm an expert in this field, and it could be something as simple as the 25 tips that you need to know about if you're going to get audited, what you need to know.
Right.
So, right. Or, some kind of myths about your business that people
Right.
don't.
Well, and so the other thing that I add for a lot of people out there, especially those of you who sell other people's products, there's a ton of affiliate marketers, direct sellers that are in here. You still have to claim a space, which is exactly what you're saying.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily have to be the space that's just around the product, but you need to be the expert in a particular space so that when I come to talk to you, I'm the digital marketing and small business guy. You're the book publishing expert. You as the direct seller are the fitness expert or the lifestyle expert, or that you're the expert in something. And it sounds like what you're saying is what a lot of the mentors say, that, a book really plants your flag and says, I am the expert in this space. It's a big differentiator. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And it's interesting that real estate agents we get a lot of real estate agents who want to write a book. And,
Sure.
Some have been in the luxury estate, space, some have been in the commercial space, so on and so forth. But when you have a book, clients seem to take you more seriously.
Right.
Right. And people love free gifts. And so a lot of these people just give them out to their prospective clients, and you actually learn a lot from them. So, and it makes them, a lot of people have told me, when I give them my book, they look at me differently. It's like I'm a celebrity all of a sudden. They ask me to sign it, and, and you are definitely looked at in a different way.
Yeah, definitely. So what if you're a person that's in the business, like I mentioned, and it's really a challenging idea? Like, you think of a book as climbing a mountain, and you hear all the stories about, oh man, it just takes years and years to get it done and to get your outline and all that stuff. What would you say to that person?
I would say I completely empathize. It took me like 3 years to figure out, I was like a little paralyzed.
Right.
So I would say either work with a book coach, that could help you almost, or accountability coach almost, to even hold your feet to the fire to actually get it done. Some people need that. Some people, we can interview you over the phone, and just, take a recorder, ask, just like what you're doing with me, we could turn this into a book, right?
Exactly.
So if you are doing blog posts now, you can take your blog post, turn that into a book. You can also, a lot of people for their first book are actually doing quotes. You can take inspirational quotes that have a theme and put all that together. That you can do in 24 to 48 hours. And suddenly you'll have that book.
Well, that's true. And I know you've worked on a lot. One of the ways a lot of first authors, and actually this is how I got my first book, and it's actually a bestseller as well, is with the joint books, where you do a book with 10 to 12 to 15 different authors who all put a different chapter together. What are your thoughts on those? Are those still viable right now?
I love those. The compilation books are terrific because it usually is based on a theme. We've done books like Women Who Rock. So those are mostly female entrepreneurs who tell personal as well as business stories about some kind of accomplishment they've had. And then it's promoted by, we get some celebrities involved, and it's promoted by people. It's a great way to put your toe in the water. It's about 1,000 words. You get your bio, you get your picture. We also, when we publish these books, you could have a custom cover so that your name will be on the front, your picture will be on the back with your bio. So it looks like you are the lead author. So this is a wonderful promotional tool for people, and it really isn't a lot of effort.
Right. And I love that, because for me, I think that's the biggest thing when, especially for my direct sellers out there, they're like, oh, well, I have to talk to 20 people a day, and I'm on the phone, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm on my email list, and I'm doing all this stuff. When am I going to stop and write a book? And, the 2 points I want to reemphasize in what you just said, I totally agree with, is there are many different ways you can pull the book together. It doesn't just have to be that, all right, sitting in a dark room, pounding away on your laptop to get it done. It can be talk your book out. I mean, you can, and I always pull this out, but most people don't realize you're walking around with a full-fledged production studio in your pocket. For almost all of you out there, you can buy microphones to plug into this that are professional grade for $10 on Amazon. And I'll post it in the community after that for those of you who are like, where do I get that? And there's an app called rev.com, which is a transcription app. It's $1 a minute. You can find it even cheaper than that if you look, and just talk for a little bit or record your sales calls, record interviews like this. All of that can get you there. And it sounds like from what you're saying, obviously there's the promotional strategy about the book, which we'll get into in a second, but it's just a matter of just kind of getting it done. It sounds like you just got to get the physical thing done.
Just get it done. And there's also Dragon software that comes on your phone, right? So you can talk into it, and you could be walking on the street and get an idea. I think that a lot of people have this idea that they need to sit down, as you say, in a dark room and write in a linear fashion. Don't bother me, close all the doors, the shades, everything else, and then just write in a linear fashion. And I didn't do that. I think that if you're going to write, my feeling is I learned this from someone where the philosophy is you take your chapter headline, you write like the 10 chapters you want to talk about. Okay, you could put that on a whiteboard, you could put that on index cards or on a computer, whatever it is you want, and you put that across. And then underneath those chapter headings, you put your talking points. Yeah. And then you lay it out, you see it all in front of you, and then you could say, this talking point really belongs in chapter 2 and not in chapter 5. So that way you're mapping out your book, and you can really see all in front of you how it's going to come out. And then one day you might want to write about, like one day I wanted to write about publicity. I didn't want to, the next day I wanted to write about what all the different kinds of editing, editors were. So I didn't write in a linear fashion. I just wrote what I wanted to write each day.
No, that's a great idea. And for a lot of us, the theme in everything is consistent action and focusing on what you need to do. And so, let's talk now about the publishing side of this, because again, the market's totally changed. You mentioned a lot of the players in the book market have changed. There are less stores, there are less libraries, like less physical books. And obviously Amazon has started to dominate this space. And so a lot of people think, like we mentioned at the beginning, that, all right, if you actually get to the finish line and you get this thing done and you're ready to go, should you just go self-publish it? Do you really need whatever it is that a publisher would give you? So speak to that. What, should you self-publish, or what's the reason not to, if not?
So my opinion about that is, if you want to write a memoir and, and it's really just, or a keepsake for your family, because you feel that it's got a limited range, but you want to put everything down, and you want people to have family memories, God bless you. You should go self-publish, because I think that's the best. There's no reason to spend money, otherwise. And some of these self-publishers do a pretty good job. Yeah. However, if you are a business person, an entrepreneur, someone who wants to be a speaker, Somebody wants to put on events and you're serious about it, I would never self-publish.
Okay.
And the reason is that you don't get the professional help that you really need. When
Yeah.
you write a book, this represents who you are. This represents your brand. So aren't you worth investing in? This
Right.
is, you should look at this as this is a marketing tool, and you're going to spend some money on marketing and advertising and promotion. And this goes right into that category. And I believe that you need people, you need a team of people to help you along. Not everybody knows about production and editing and interior design and cover design. And these are not subjective things. These are real things of how we put these things together and why we do what we do. And the most important thing is, my pet peeve is when people say to me, well, my sister who is really good in English, well, she looked the book over and she thought it was fine.
Yeah.
So it's not fine. So, I'm really very strong about hiring professional editors who do this for a living, who understand what we're talking about, and also doing the editing so that you're still keeping the author's voice,
Right.
but still making it a better book.
Sure. And so those are the things that your publisher would do for you on the logistics side, it sounds like. What are the benefits on the promotional side? So what can you do, and I know we're kind of in between hybrid and traditional right now, but what do they do on the promotional side that you wouldn't get doing it on your own?
So that's a really good question, because with hybrid publishing, and maybe I could backtrack a little bit and explain.
Sure.
There are three options to publish: self-publishing, hybrid publishing, and traditional publishing. And essentially, hybrid is in between self-publishing and traditional.
Sure.
Hybrid, we get the advantages of self-publishing because we get the book to market in a very quick way. We get the book to market in about 8 to 12 weeks. A lot of hybrid publishers might say, 3 to 6 months, something like that. But a traditional publisher, if you can get a contract, will take 18 months at least to get your book on the market. So that's important to know. And in hybrid publishing, you get to keep your rights, and you get higher royalties, much higher royalties than a traditional publisher. Self-publishing, you get to keep all the money. Hybrid publishing, you have pretty much the same distribution as a traditional publisher. Some hybrids have sales reps, some don't. So my advice would be, if you're going to go hybrid, you should check into what each hybrid publisher offers you. Some do offer, their strength is distribution, and they do have reps if that's important to you. And some have more marketing than others.
Sure.
So what we do is we work with the author. We have at least 2 one-hour consultations with the author, and we talk about a marketing strategy, which comes from looking at, and in fact, very similar to what you do, who are your demographics, who is your ideal reader, what is it? My first question to a potential author is, what do you want out of this book? What is your mission? What do you want to accomplish with this book? And we take it from there. And then who's going to read the book? How do we find these people? And then, talk about budgets. And then we come together and we create a marketing strategy.
Right.
And then develop the tactics from there. We can hire people to get it done for you. We work with strategic partners like you, and publicists and bloggers, and a lot of people would do Amazon bestseller campaigns.
Sure.
There's a lot of things that we offer. Those are not part of the package, but we have the expertise, and we're more than happy. The difference is with our hybrid company is you always have a person. You have a project manager, right? In production, and then you have me and our other marketing team to help you through from beginning to end of how you're going to actually promote this book.
Right. Well, and that's key because, and what I heard in summing it up in short is you get a team. Again, the self-publishing, the operative word is self. And I know, even though I know marketing and I know how, if I had a book, how I would look at taking it to market and all of that, the process of the book itself and promoting the book and starting from scratch and knowing, is this right and should it be edited and should it be adjusted and all the stuff you just broke down in 15 minutes are not things I'm an expert in, and I wouldn't be. I think most people don't get it done because you brought up the paralysis on the writing style, so we dealt with that a little bit. And then once you get it done, I saw a great quote actually on Facebook earlier that most people think it's over when you write the end, and that's just the beginning. At that point, it's now you're beginning the part that tests your patience a little bit.
That's the hard part.
Going back and revising and devising the strategy and promoting it. But from what you're saying, again, it's worth it for the credibility piece. It's worth it for the authority piece when you get it. What are some examples that you've seen, since you've worked with so many authors in particular, of the difference it made in their business when they did the book? When the book finally got done and it came to market, what difference did it make in the business, like somebody you've worked with in the past?
Well, it's made some huge differences. For instance, there are a couple of people that I know who are in the branding space. And they were looking to go into actual corporations or organizations and work with them in social media, building platforms, doing lunch and learns, doing all of that. And then once they had the book, and we developed an Amazon bestseller campaign, and then it was written about and it was reviewed, and it was on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, and they got a lot of great reviews on Amazon. Right. Lots of corporations actually were looking and finding this because it was being discovered everywhere. It was easier than for the person to follow up with organizations to say, listen, I've laid out my program and my book. Please look at my book. I would love to come in and do a consultation with your middle level managers, and so it's kind of skyrocketed. It started to skyrocket their business.
Yeah, it's just the thing, and you bring it up, it's just the perception. It seems like the perception is still there, even now with all the new technology, the new courses, all that stuff. It's just when you can hand somebody a book, they immediately go, this person must know their stuff. And I know the truth of what you're bringing up, that the corporation probably didn't even read it. Or they flipped it up, looked at it, went, great, this looks good. This person knows their stuff. Let's bring them in. It's different than if you're like, go look at my website. And trust me, as a digital marketer, I tell people that all the time. I'm like, I love digital marketing. You can live, people are calling it the laptop lifestyle now. You can do that and it's great. But if you want to take it to that next level and move it offline, I agree with what you're saying. Like it's something about just handing somebody a book and going, great.
It gives you a credibility and a legitimacy that nothing else really can.
Right. Well, and the other tip I would offer, because we brought up our direct sellers again, and I know there's so many of you out there that are affiliates, direct sellers. We brought up the joint books or the shared books before. That's another great option for you and your team. Like if you're somebody that works in a team at this point and you're like, I need to get it done, but I know I'm not going to write it all myself, or I can't, have your team develop the chapters with you. Again, all of you use it as an authority piece. And then you're talking 1,000 words, and most of you could do that, in a half day, getting it into shape and getting it organized, and then get it to print. So that way you take that forward. And again, it's like you said, if you're hosting a party or you're hosting an event and you're trying to sell something, and you say, "Great, here's our book that we put together," it just does something that people
blows their minds. Yeah,
they just go, "Wow!" It's amazing that still works, but. Trust me, it's just being willing to do it seems to be 99% of the battle. From what you're saying, just
getting it done. Just getting it done is really, I think, the hard part. It's true, but there are so many different ways, as we discussed, to actually get a book done, and it's a good first step. Whether it's a quote book or putting together your blogs, or have somebody interview you. Right. And putting it together from there, transcribing, et cetera, et cetera. And books are also could be the first piece well, we call it funnels, but it's
Yep.
the first piece in your program where people do business with people they like and they trust. Let's
Mhm.
face it, right?
Yep.
So one of the ways that people, inexpensive ways that people will get to know you is by reading your book or downloading a Kindle for 99 cents or $2.99 or whatever, because it's not a big investment. And if they
Right.
like what you have to say, they might call you and then talk about a consultation with you, but you can develop all kinds of things from there, a webinar, a course, a live event. There are just so many things that you can develop that stem from the book that you've written.
Yeah, and that's exactly how we met, was at an author event, and that's exactly what I was describing. Again, for those of us that have been online developers, or we're really good at social media, we're really good at networking, we're really good at the program development side. You can repurpose a book again and again. And when I've worked with the major speakers who've done bestsellers over the years and New York Times lists and that kind of thing, I mean, the book was something that you go back to again and again and again, because it's just a foundational piece of what you do. And you can, it sounds like the one thing that I like about that we've covered on this call is you can get it done in easier ways than you think. And for
Right.
a lot of you, it's about partnering up. It's about using your team. It's about using the tools that you have. If you're not a writer, don't worry about it. Talk it out, get interviewed. To me, one of the challenges we give in the community all the time is, to gather the 10 questions that you're asked the most in your business or about your business. And so that you're taking like legitimate questions that people ask you when you're on a sales call or when you're on social or when you're out there. And that could be the book right there. It's just
Exactly.
one of those questions to start
Right.
with.
The 10
And
top
so,
things you didn't know,
right,
about this business. Yeah.
right. So my question then would be, all right, so let's say you've got it done. We're to the point where we're ready to make a decision on what we're going to do. You mentioned memoirs for self-publishing. If you want more authority, you want to go either traditional or hybrid, but that is dramatically changing the timeline for the book to get to market and your launch window and all that stuff. What if I'm somebody that's like, all right, I'm doing this because I want a bestseller. The bestseller cred is what's going to get me in front of companies, all that stuff. What would you say to that person? Where do they kind of start if they know nothing? They're just like, I'm a content person. I do my business. Now I'm thinking bestseller. What do I need to know about that?
Well, what you need to know is it's a hard road, frankly, a hard road to hoe if you want to be, you mean like a New York a
Right.
New York
On
Times
road to
bestseller?
home.
A hard road to hoe. Being the city girl myself, I know a lot about hoeing.
Yes,
So
me too.
farming. But you're talking about being a New York Times bestseller?
Either any bestseller, New York Times, Amazon, kind of what do you need to know to start? Like you said, it is a hard road ahead, but if someone sits down and that's the goal they give you, what do you say to them? Besides, it's a hard road to hoe.
Okay. Well, I think a key thing is to at least 6 months, if not a year, before the book comes out, you should be working on your social media platform and developing yourself as a credible expert. And that
Mm-hmm.
means LinkedIn, I feel, is a really great place to get to know people, join the groups. I think you need to contribute first. You're not selling anything. You need to be helpful to the community.
Yes.
So places like Facebook, I guess one of the things I always tell people is don't try and do everything. There's so many different kinds of social media. Pick two and really stick at it. So for me, it's LinkedIn and Facebook, but other people are they have a visual business, so they want to go to Pinterest, or Instagram. So,
Right.
and that's fine, but pick two and do that every day. I think blog posts are really good, just contributing to the society at large. And so one of the things you can do also is to put out there to your list of people, to your friends that are on social media, say, hey, I'm thinking about writing this book, and I have some chapters, but I'd love it if you could read this chapter and give me some feedback, and develop raving fans.
Right.
So people who are then get invested in helping you, promise them a free book, promise them, a $10 Amazon gift certificate for feedback, whatever it is. People love gifts. And so help them help you.
People
So
love gifts more than money. I want to touch on that point too. And one thing people don't realize is they say, "Oh, well, you could just pay them." And I'm like, actually, people seem to be more motivated for the Amazon gift card or the Starbucks card or the Apple Store card than just handing them cash. So keep that in mind when you're doing that.
that's absolutely true.
Right.
So 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 Bill, you have to think through the plan. You can't just say, "Okay, I want to be a bestseller and here's my book. Let's get it done." And now, so with the New York Times, it's uh, there are a number of hundreds of independent stores as well as Amazon, the two wholesalers, Baker and Taylor and Ingram. There are a lot of different brick and mortar places that report to the New York Times. And the way that works is your book has to sell the fastest in that particular week.
Okay.
So it's an extremely difficult thing to do if you're not already known and you're not on the Today Show, and you really have to be on some major media.
Right. And so your first book probably isn't the one you're focusing all that energy around. The first book gets you the credibility. And if you already have the existing brand or the existing business, you can leverage that. And again, I specifically know the Amazon strategy personally, which you can specifically leverage that based off your existing resources. But if you're the team that's starting, with your joint book and all of you have 10 to 20 people and one of them's your mom and one of them's your brother, that's, again, I wouldn't focus as much on bestseller as much as getting it done from what you're saying and
that's
making
exactly
sure that
right.
you get that piece so that you can get it done.
We do work with lots of authors who aren't as well known, and we are able to get them to #1 on the Amazon bestseller list. There's a way with the picking the categories and understanding how many people need to buy the book, and there are definitely ways to do that. But and then you can get a #1 banner, and and that certainly helps. But it's certainly helpful if you're starting to build a list of people who are followers, and you have a built out website and a real business.
Yeah, one of the things that I did, even during New York Times bestseller campaigns were, because again, I'm the digital guy and I love the programs and the webinars and the stuff like this that you can throw together in a couple of hours to get moving. A lot of times you can, if you've got a cover design that you're feeling good about, you can print little cards and you can have digital bonuses where they go and they sign up for your list and you give them, a free chapter and then some content you recorded or webinars about the book. And so that way you're capturing the information. And you can either take pre-orders at that point, and get information, or you can let them know when the release window is going to be and put them in a launch campaign that way. So again, it's the idea, and this is really coming back. I think for the mid 2010s, the early to mid 2010s, people were all digital. The catchphrase was "going green." It's great. It's all on my website. I don't hand you anything. We've really rubber banded back. Now people want that physical thing again. They want the USB drive. They want the card. They want the flyer. Otherwise, they're going to forget. And so, if you've got that, that's another strategy you can use when you go to a networking event or you go out and you meet people, to just hand them a card that's the book cover and telling them to download something, or telling them to go to the site to get them, because for a lot of you, you're in the weeds. And that's the way to get it done. The timeline is irrelevant. Like you said, it could mean with a traditional publisher, and I knew this going in, you were waiting, 18 to 24 months before that came to market. But you can still promote it now. Even if you don't have it.
You should be promoting it now.
Design, you can start the minute you have the idea and you put down that this is going to happen. You can start promoting that and making.
You want to be the expert in that space, and so you want to start adding content, giving validity to you as an expert. One of the other things you can do is Amazon has something called Kindle Singles. And so you can start putting out, it could be 10 pages on one idea that might be a chapter or a talking point in your book eventually. But you want to put out like these single things that people buy for a very cheap amount, and it just gets your name out.
Right. Love it. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground. I really appreciate you taking the time today. I know you're going to be back. For those of you that are members of our community, Karen also has a course that she's putting in there. She's going to be one of our first featured experts, which is really breaking down the specifics of the different publishing models. We talked about self, hybrid, and traditional publishing. So she breaks that down. And I actually show up as a special guest in the last video to talk about marketing. And we'll have to bring you back soon to talk more about that promotional schedule for those of you out there that start working on this or thinking about it. But that's really what we do here in the community. Karen, any closing thoughts before we wrap today?
Well, I would just like to encourage people, if, people want to have a conversation with me or with Ken, if you're brainstorming is a great idea. I find that a lot of people have 5 or 10 different ideas and they get paralyzed because they don't know what to do. And right. I think that Ken and I are really good at helping you breaking that down. And so just get some kind of, I guess, try and not be so afraid of it. And the rewards at the end will more than make up for your fear.
Yep. And that conversation is exactly what got me moving, got the fire under me to go, yes, I know. I've been listening to this for years from every expert. I know it will work, but I'm stubborn like a lot of my business owners out there. And so, again, that's what the Facebook group is for. Karen is a member of the Facebook group as one of our featured experts. So if you watch this or you're watching the replay and you go, great, I need to ask a question now, or I just want to know, just post that right in the Facebook group, tag Karen or I. And if I notice it first, I'll tag Karen myself. And so just post your ideas. Let us know. That's what we're here to do. And again, thank you so much, Karen, for your time. And we'll be back with future sessions here on Your Momentum Now. We'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you, Ken. Bye.
Thanks.